So as you guessed when I walked on stage, I grew up in a small village in southern Sudan and in Kenya later when the war got bad. This is the area that I grew up in. And it was interesting because my parents were there as linguists to take an oral language and turn it into a written one. But I still remember the day that a borehole was drilled and we finally had the ability to pump water. That was maybe a singular event for me that helped me understand what real change can mean with technology. And that's why when I look at electricity, I think of it very differently than most people. It's not a convenience to me. It's something that's foundational for human progress. So energy is this base layer for human progress, right? Whether it's, leaps forward in food and agriculture, or it's security, where there's productivity, these things all happen because of one thing, energy. Letitia, in that, if I go back one slide, in this small hydro site in Malawi, Letitia lives nearby. Letitia gets this energy, and she at first buys an LED light bulb. She charges her she charges her mobile phone. And then over time, you see that she buys other things. So she buys a hot pot, she buys a TV, and these things become meaningful in the community because this is now a gathering place, there's now productivity. These are things that actually matter for day-to-day life. And you see the refrigerator. And the refrigerator means something too, because this means that she can store her food for longer. In these villages, they start off with these small things, and then they get into irrigation for their crops. There's TVs that show up in the local dukas that allow people to watch TV at night, watch that Premier League football game. And you might think that that doesn't matter. And it doesn't at first, if you look at it, but it means that the husbands aren't going 15 kilometers away to the next closest town to watch football and being gone for the weekend. And so they're around the family. So it does mean something. And it changes the security. So you can actually walk at night and you have light and things like this. It actually really matters. So in our work, what we've seen is that more Bitcoin mining means more energy. And in Africa, this is really, really important because when we get into the problem of electricity in Africa, we realize that, as you saw in the slides earlier, the 600 million people don't have access to it. Why is that? And it's because in that village, even if Letitia and all of her friends start buying and building things with that electricity, they still lack something else, which is they don't offer the anchor tendency that an energy generation plant requires to be sustainable as a business. So at most, we've seen 36% usage of any of these energy sites by the local community. So it's just really hard to drop in a multi-million-dollar project and expect to get a return on investment from people who work for less than $5 a day, many times less. So we come along and we drop in a 20-foot container of Bitcoin miners, right? They use a lot of energy. And this has been a sticking point for so many people in the Bitcoin space, right? Energy is the problem, right? Well, energy is the solution too. The use of energy is actually what makes this energy project so exciting and so interesting. When we look at the amount of energy used, we often think, okay, that's scary, and it is to some people, but it also secures the world's best financial network, the most stable financial network, and it also stabilizes grids all over the world. So we don't use all of our power anywhere. So in that Malawian village, this is the duck curve for what the power actually looks like for demand, right? The same thing applies in the United Kingdom. The same thing applies in Wyoming. There's periods of the day where energy is not being used and it's left stranded. These pockets of wasted energy, the orange part, can be utilized and monetized with Bitcoin. So really what we're saying is that Bitcoin mining acts as a shock absorber for both intermittent power as well as variable demand anywhere in the world. My friend Alex Gladstein says, at night the people sleep, but the river never sleeps. In Africa, that's so true. We have this massive amounts of renewable energy, and people are not able to use it all the time, all the places, because they don't have access to it. If we can take this same energy running through the river and put a turbine on it, all of a sudden it changes the lives of everybody in that community. So gridless turns wasted power into revenue where no one else can. We take renewable energy that would otherwise go to waste and instantly monetize it, stabilizing the local grid and funding community electrification. How is it done, right? It's actually very simple. We show up, we find the stranded energy, often they find us. We connect a Bitcoin miner, we have instant monetization into this global network that is paying every 10 minutes. We consume all excess electricity. We are the buyer of last resort, so the community always comes first. Whether it's the local grain mill or the local homes, they get power first, we get what is remaining. We have sub-second response time, so we can do that immediately, and that helps stabilize their local grid. As I was saying, the Bitcoin network pays daily with no customers, no accounts receivable, and no counterparty risk, which we love. And we share that revenue with our power partner. Now, this is important. Remember, that power partner cannot run a sustainable organization right now. With the currency that they're making from that local community, they're not even able to pay their line workers regularly. They can't fix transformers. They can't buy more meters to put in people's homes. So now they can, immediately. Another way to look at this is the river flowing. There's just all this wasted energy, and a little bit of it is monetized for that local energy partner. As gridless comes along, we take that full capacity and help monetize it. And that completely changes the way that they can build their organization. All of a sudden, they're immediately able to pay their workers, fix transformers, and connect more people. And I'm going to show you what that actually looks like. So, the making of an African Bitcoin mine. This is the site in Zambia. It's on the, near the headwaters of the Zambezi River. It's 700 kilowatts total, with 500 kilowatts that's available, sometimes down to 300 kilowatts during the dry season, of stranded power. It was built with grant funding 16 years ago. The maximum use case is 36%, which is just not enough to keep it running. It's 10 hours from the closest airport and 2 hours from the closest town to buy groceries. So what do? At first, in Nairobi, we sit down, we build a Bitcoin mining container. All designed and engineered in Nairobi, open source, so everybody else in the world can use it as well. We then transport that over some of Africa's best roads, and we put it in place. Now we have to do connectivity. So a Starlink, a link to the mobile network. Between the two of those things, all of a sudden we have connectivity, and we can do this anywhere on the continent. We install our Bitcoin miners, we do the setup, and by day 3, it's running. So they have this is it from above. It's actually quite interesting. If you haven't seen a run-of-river Bitcoin mining site, this is what it looks like. You have the river, some of the water goes off into the forebay, it goes down the pinstock to the powerhouse, and there's a Bitcoin mining container up there on the right. Very simple. It's not something that is complicated to run. What are the results, though? So in the first year after we did this, our partner made $70,000 worth of Bitcoin. They held it for longer, so they actually sold it for more than that. We earned $233,000. 400 more households, 2,000 more people got electricity in that 1 year. 40 more businesses, from grain mills to schools to kiosks, got power. And our deployment to cash flow was 3 days. 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐿 has been changed because of the electrification that they had from 16 years ago. But it's been stabilized because of Bitcoin mining. And that is incredibly important if we want to electrify this continent. The total that we've done is 28,000 people have received electrification because gridless is sites in 6 countries. We're in Malawi, Kenya, and Zambia, and we operate off of hydro, geothermal, and biomass. But we're not the only ones, right? There's some really interesting other companies doing this. Of course, in the US, in these massive warehouses, you see Bitcoin mining showing up in all kinds of places. It's containerized, it's cabinets like where we started. Our first site was 6 Bitcoin miners in a little hydro site in the middle of nowhere. It's in garages in Lebanon, it's in sheds in Nigeria. It's all over the place. Because Bitcoin mining chases the cheapest energy. It's like pouring water on an uneven floor. Wherever that water goes is the lowest point, and that's where the Bitcoin miners go to. And as AI chases the good energy in the US and Europe, the Bitcoin mining that's using that today will move because the electricity gets more expensive here. It can be paid more for its power. So what does it look like, though, right? If we look at the whole continent of Africa, the World Bank estimates that we need about 140,000 mini-grids. And the reason we need that is because the main grid can only go so far. There's these populations that live in a very low density in very far-flung areas, and they have great renewable energy resources with free inputs, but they haven't up until now had the financial backing to make sense for an energy site. All of a sudden, Bitcoin mining does solve this, right? This is one of those things that we can come along and we can say, oh, okay, from day one, we can make sure that 100% of that capacity is utilized and monetized, and we can now get a 5 to 7 year ROI on a brand new energy site, something that could never be done before. Everybody had this dream of getting a 20 to 30 year payback on a rural energy site in Africa. Now you can actually do it in 5 to 7 years. But our problem is only 5,000 of these mini-grids have been built over the last 5 years. That's just not a lot, and we're not hitting the targets. So if we need to do 140,000 mini-grids, how are we going to do that? Gridless's answer to this is that we've started building power, too. So most energy developers in Africa will build one site every maybe 2 to 4 years. We're building 3 new ones this year, and we're trying to get to 10 new sites a year going forward. The reason that has to happen is we want a constellation of sites across 20 countries. Number one, that gives me good geographic risk dispersion, which I appreciate in Africa. And second of all, it means that we're actually trying to hit the mark to electrify the parts of the continent that nobody else can and nobody else will. So when we think about Gridless, our mission is about power, it's about profitability, it's about people, right? But I think the way to think about this is like, when you look at Bitcoin mining, you often think about these racks of servers in these warehouses, maybe a bunch of containers in a field. But I want you to think about Letitia and her getting electricity, her getting light. I want you to think about that roadside dukkha that has the TV that brings the gathering together and the community together at night. I want you to think of that irrigation, that productivity gain in those rural parts of Africa. Basically, I want you to see that Bitcoin mining isn't just about making Bitcoin. It's actually about electrifying continents. It's about making use of the stranded energy here in the US. It's about stabilizing the grid. It's ultimately about the people who are downstream of that energy. And then to leave this final point, is that there's a near unlimited supply of energy to be developed in the one place on Earth that needs it most, Africa, where we have these abundant resources, and that meets this urgent demand of power, and Bitcoin is the answer for it. Thank you very much.